Hello, everyone. I am Sumana Jetty. I'm so happy to be here on a Wednesday. This is our learning, leaping, and locking in session of 2026. Going into 2026, it's still 2025. I'm so happy to be here. I wasn't expecting to do a Jetty Wellness pop up in December, but when things are in alignment, it just happens. And here I am. So, first things first, I want to make sure that we are watching this live. So if you are joining us on LinkedIn or on YouTube, give me a quick hi. And I'm just going to pop in my LinkedIn as well, just to make sure everything's good, because this has been a little bit of a challenge for me to get things going. Okay, just give me a moment. Okay, I think we're live. The last I checked, there was 96 of us attending the session. So I'm just really delighted to be here on a Wednesday morning with my special guest, Samantha Fodor. And we are going to have a really chill podcast style conversation. Nothing too intense. We're just going to be, having a really chill conversation. This time of the year is just so powerful, and it's a good moment to like pause and reflect and think about our growth. So we came up with this really cool framework one day, and I'll get Sam to kind of introduce herself and tell us about how we randomly came up with this kind of event. But the focus of today's conversation is going to be on these three elements: the learning, the leaping, and the locking in. So if you're joining us live, put it in the comment, give us a quick hi. Tell us where you are joining us from, LinkedIn or YouTube. And then the other thing I always like asking guests who attend these live sessions is also like, why are you here today? Like, why did you decide to kind of log into LinkedIn so early in the morning and then log into this particular show? So if you don't know who I am, my name is Sumana Jetty. I am the founder and CEO of Jetty Wellness. We design evidence-based workplace wellness solutions. I primarily work with businesses, mostly institutions. Academic institutions has been something that I've been working really closely with. And I come from public health. So a lot of my strategies are evidence based. So I like to take some of those evidence-based strategies and simplify those for you. So learning, leaping, and locking in. Welcome, Jason. Nice to see you as well. I'm so happy that you're here. So I'll just kind of walk you through the framework a little bit, and then we're gonna go right in and introduce Sam. Actually, no, you know what I'll do? I'll switch things up a little bit. How about I do this? How about I tell Sam to give us a quick hello, tell us a little bit about herself, how she met me, and how we came up with this sort of title. So, Sam, hi, how are you? This is your first LinkedIn Live.
Hi, good morning, everyone, and good morning, Sumana. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here. It's definitely out of my comfort zone, so it's fun. So I'm excited to dive into this framework.
Tell
A
me a
little bit
little
of
bit about yourself, Sam. Tell me how we met, and tell me a little bit about your background, and maybe we'll ask a couple more questions.
Sure, yeah. I'll start with myself. So, hi everyone. Thank you for joining. Whether you're live or listening to this afterward, we just appreciate your support. So, I'm Samantha Fedor. My background is primarily in health, safety, environment, and operational risk. And over the last couple years, I've also jumped into HR. And so, this has kind of been my sweet spot. Finding a bridge between people and performance and strategy and culture. And I recently completed my MBA courses from Royal Roads University.
Woo woo!
Thank you. And part of the um, initiative to do this with Sumana today was that we were talking about how today, December 3rd, is the day that Royal Roads meets to confer degrees. So once I get notification of that, I can officially use those letters, the MBA. So and how this came to be was Simona and I chat regularly and have great connective conversations about kind of bridging personal and professional and all these things. And I don't remember how exactly the framework came about, but it kind of just in organically developed. And then when we figured out those 3 L's, it was fun, and we just said, "Let's do it. Let's no waiting." I love how you framed it in your initial LinkedIn post, which is why wait? We could wait till 2026, or we could just jump in.
Yeah, no, I love that. And this was actually really cool. A little bit more of a backstory. I met Sam or Samantha. Um, it looks like almost 5 years ago because it was during Clubhouse days that we connected. And I know a lot of us, some of you that are watching as well might be like, "Hey, we met on Clubhouse back when Clubhouse was pretty easy to use platform." And I think things changed, and then LinkedIn Live became a more popular platform to do some of these podcast style conversations. And I have been trying to get Samantha to do something like this for a minute. So when there's alignment, this conversation it just organically came to be. So I'm just really happy that you're here doing something that's a little bit scary, a little bit exciting, but also just for all the folks who are joining us, thank you so much. Again, please put it in the chat box and let us know why you are here today. I think I just want to also, take a moment when you read a title like Learning, Leaping, and Locking In, How We Grow Through Career Change. Maybe there was something about the title that made you feel like you wanted to stop in and listen, or whatever your reason is, just maybe put that in the chat box as we are kind of looking at it. Now, for this particular show, we're not bringing guests up, but we are going to take some questions in the chat box. So if you're listening, if you're driving, you can just put your headphones on, plug us into your audio device, whatever your Bluetooth is, and just listen to us. And because we're going to talk about a lot of fun things. So a little bit about the framework. There's 3 elements to our conversation today. We're going to do the learn, the leap, and the lock. So the learn is going to be kind of Sam and I talking about what are we currently learning, what skills and insights or lessons that life is teaching you, perhaps, and what awareness has kind of emerged for you in 2025, and what are you going to take into 2026. The leap is, ooh, I love the leap because that's a scary one. What are you stretching? What are you expanding? What are you stepping into, new opportunities, new growth? I know the workforce and the labor market is so tough right now, and it's really difficult to find a job, etc. So, maybe there's areas in your life that feel exciting, but they also feel scary and unfamiliar. What would that look like for you? So that's the definition of the leap. And the locking in, I mean, the kids talk about it all the time, but what
Mhm.
are we locking in? We had a show a couple months ago on the great lock-in, which typically starts in September till the end of November. But what are you committing to? What are you protecting? And what boundaries or practices are you, using to anchor your well-being, your quality of life? Oh gosh, I talk about this all the time. What do you need to have a quality of life that is not just sustainable, but one that's going to keep you feeling your best? What does that look like for you? So, those are the 3 pieces. So, what I'll do is I'll pass the mic over to Sam and we'll start the first one. And again, if you're listening, learning, leaping, locking in, let's start with the learn first. Samantha, tell me. Tell me, what are you learning? Tell me, what comes to mind when I ask you what are you currently learning and what awareness has emerged for you. Let's talk about that first element of that framework.
Yeah, it sounds good. Yeah, I feel like learning is just a constant in my life. I feel like, I mean, this is funny because we're talking about um, anytime you're out of your comfort zone, and I think discomfort is part of, like, it is connected inherently with learning. So yeah, like anytime you're out in discomfort, you're in learning mode, you're in growth mode. So that's the first thing that comes to mind. I think um, a couple things that I'm learning about right now, and I've identified it as a learning, is where I'm at with my health and nutrition and things like that. So I'm there's been points in my life where I've been in a lock-in mode with that. But I'm back to square, or not square one, but I'm back in a learning mindset with that, into how to, like, incorporate it after injury, after health issues. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I love that. And For you, 2025, as we're thinking about learning, and I know you and I are very similar in having like this learning, continuous learner, being a continuous learner. And I know you read a lot of books and listen to a lot of podcasts, and that's one thing that Samantha and I share, which is led to this collaboration here on LinkedIn, but also our friendship outside of LinkedIn as well.
Mhm.
Is that we're both learning. We both love learning new things, and from the health and well-being space, simple keystone habits, like if you want to improve your nutrition, Samantha, like you said, or any
Mhm.
kind of sustainable habits. Can you maybe tell me a little bit about, um, are you focusing on, in 2025,
Mhm.
was there any moment where you felt that learning is something I have to almost anchor to get me to the other? I know you were also doing your master's and your MBA, so I'm sure there's a lot of learning in your school. But was there any point where you felt like, oh, you know what, nutrition and health is something that I absolutely need to keep front and center? Was there a moment of reflection for you?
Yeah, there's been many moments, and I think it ties into I love this because the more that we've expanded on this framework, I realize just everything ties together. But some of those moments would have been things like experiencing knee pain. And what I've been learning is that having like the self awareness of what we're feeling, whether like it's a sensation like knee pain or anxiety, um, it's data, right? It's like telling us information about either ourselves, like it's quite literally a pain point in our life. And so paying attention to those pain points, like, oh, my knee used to never hurt when I was walking down the stairs. And now I feel like and you know, it's a pain point for me. And so that either tells me something that needs to probably change about my environment, the support that I'm getting, um, or there's a growth opportunity for me. And so, and I've also been supported uh, with my partner Julian, who encourages me. He goes to the gym every day, and he's like a really good influence on me, and he invites me all the time. So that's kind of part of my 2026 goal would be to lock into that. But right now, it's listening to the pain points, those moments of um, yeah, and recognizing that I could do something about it.
Yeah, and folks, if you're listening, and I'll share my learning moment as well. So this learning, leaping, and locking in, there's three elements, and this is such a good time of the year to be talking about this. But as you're listening to us, I would love for you also to put in the chat box, what are you currently learning? What awareness has emerged? And like Samantha said, as something that, and as we get older, we're getting all kinds of aches and pains when we wake up in the morning. But for me as well, like I'm starting to experience that as well in a few different areas of my life. And I love, Samantha, when you said that this is data. This is something
Mhm.
that's telling us there's self-awareness that's emerged for you, that's now allowing you to learn to put nutrition and those sustainable habits, back on the table as something that you want to learn, which I think is such a great mindset to have, is collecting those data points. So for me, I've been thinking about this a lot, and I'll share this with you. And you know a lot about this, Samantha, already, but some of you folks probably don't, or maybe do. I don't share a lot about this on social media, but 2025 was one of the most challenging, if not it'll probably go in the record of my life as one of the most challenging years of my life. It was
Mhm.
there's just so much uncertainty. I've had to move a few different times, so there was not just uncertainty in the space of business, uncertainty in the space of personal well-being, but also uncertainty in my housing situation, which has never ever been an issue for me in my entire life up until this point. So what I'm learning through this experience is learning to be adaptable, and it's actually really interesting. The more I reflected on this, the more I realized that, oh gosh, I've heard people say this to me, like, I really envy that you're so adaptable. And I really took adaptability as kind of like for granted until you're in the thick of it and you're realizing how quickly, and this isn't resilience, I'll tell you this, I'll tell you my resilience buffer is very low right now. Adaptability is a little bit different. So what I'm learning is that when you are faced with so much uncertainty, uncertainty, it is natural for our body to go into fight or flight and get scared. And I've been in this sort of space of fear, but what I'm learning is that it doesn't always have to be fear. And you don't always have to think of the setback as, something that's going to break you. Rebuilding can be a fun thing. I mean, maybe fun's not the right word to use, but rebuilding can be an opportunity for you to, try something different. And yesterday, when I was thinking about these notes, I was looking at, I have quite a few plants that have been in my life for, I don't know, 10, 15 years now. The one in my office, I'm sure you may have seen on a few LinkedIn lives when I have my camera on, and maybe I'll show that to you later, has been with me since 2016. So it was a little baby when I had it, and now it's become this massive vine. And my plants have moved around with me as I've moved around in this past year in 2025, multiple different places, homes, beds, you name it. And I almost kind of had this moment where I thought, when in the spring, or typically in the spring, when you have to repot your plants because they grow out of that little initial pot, the roots of the plant are still very intact. So I've had to remind myself, like, I was literally looking at my plant and I was like, oh, I've repotted you so many times and you're still doing so well. So for me, this adaptation comes from this mindset of, like, maybe just nurturing and growing and being okay that sometimes new spaces might be hard, but the roots are still there. Me as a person, my roots are still there, and uncertainty. And being able to adapt to different environments isn't always like a bad thing, as long as you maintain those key pieces of what makes you you. And of course, there's room to grow and add new things and new skills as well. But that's been my biggest learning, Sam. And it's, yeah, I think there's more to that, but I guess that would be my main takeaway for this kind of first little piece. Would love your insight, or if anything came to you while I was sharing that. And do want to welcome everybody who's joined us and listening in. Please share with us your learning moment, your self-awareness moment, or something that has made you feel like 2025, this was one big lesson or an element that I learned. So please put that in the chat. And Sam, any thoughts come to mind?
Yeah, so thank you for sharing that. I love what you're saying about, again, it's just everything is data. And uh it's maybe a mindset shift in learning to ask, what is this telling me? So if 2025 was those stress points about and change in environment, similar to a plant, like you said, having root shock and changing a lot. Maybe it's 2026 looking for more stability, or and I also love what you noticed as well, despite the discomfort, which is that there is stability. There is we can get focused on what's not working, or storying something that may be unhelpful about that change, instead of and this isn't to say, like, put a positive spin on things that are not comfortable, but it's noticing the discomfort. um Also noticing just kind of what else is working or not working, um and then strategically taking action, um with something that aligns with your values, your goals, where you want to be. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. I think that's really, really good insight, and just um, in line with what, yeah, I'm thinking, with just how do we let our energy, our values, our environment, our feelings, our emotions, um, help give us signals, right? And how do we learn to listen to that and figure out, um, yeah, what comes next? So yeah, what
I
are you?
love that.
What comes up for you for?
I mean, I think, this is like combining what you've said and combining what I've said. I think my biggest takeaway from this is, I mean, we're both, and we're so aligned in the way that we think. And I would love for the folks who are listening to kind of chime in as well in the chat here. Is using, yeah, those data points to make strategic decisions, even when, and also knowing what is not working is still data.
Mhm.
Knowing what's not working is still data. Knowing what's working is still data. And knowing, what can I do better is still data. I think sometimes you're right. We do get stuck. And a lot of 2025, I would say I was stuck in like nothing's working, nothing's working, nothing's working. But on the outside, that's just my internal sort of belief. But on the outside, when I'm showing up for my clients, when I'm showing up for my ambassadors, when I'm showing up for events, no one needs to really know that. We're really good at sort of hiding and putting on that the strength and I guess the resilience that's needed to do the job. But um, I write and journal a lot, Samantha, and for me, it's always kind of looking at that data to say like where can I shift and move. Which this is also a really good segue. And I do want to just maybe take a pause here and just say hello to everybody who's joined us. This is so good.
Mhm.
Shidra, you are great at joining from Nigeria. We had someone, let me just say Jay. We have Jay joining us. A comment from Jay here in 2025. Hold on for just a moment. Oh, in 2025, the thing that has been struggle is the job market due to AI generation. Yes, I know that. Who else do we have here? Let me just pull up
Mhm.
the chat. We have Nicole, we have Stephen, we have Liana coming from Minnesota. So thank you so much, Stephen from New York. So just a lot of cool people from all over the world. This is awesome. Let's just maybe move into the second part of our framework. So, folks, the first part of our framework was learning. And the question that I want you to kind of think about, and again, you can put this in the chat just like Jay did. What are you learning? What are you currently learning? What awareness has emerged for you? And what is life teaching you? What skills have you learned? What insights? What data have you gathered? If I were to tell you, give me a concise one sentence of a of a conclusion of what this was for you for 2025 and what you're going to take into the chapter of 2026, what would that be? And I know this is a pretty heavy question, and trust me, it's taken me a while to think about this as well, but that was the learning part of it. I love now to talk about the part that I know was very scary, is the leaping part of it. Now, the leaping is, what are your stretch goals? What are you expanding? What are you stepping into that is a little bit scary, a little bit exciting? Maybe you got a new job. Maybe there's some new opportunities. Maybe something that feels a little unfamiliar, and you're like, I don't know if I want to step into it, but I might have to. That's what the leap means in sort of the framework that we randomly created one night. So, Samantha, what are you leaping into? Let's hear it.
Well, so similar to you, my 2025 has been just rife with change, and it feels like I haven't had a lot of constant. There's just been like some curveballs thrown at me, as we all get in life, and something, yeah, that I think when we have change around us, whether it's, and to Jay's point, whether it's the market or technology, whether our company is changing, whether the people around us are changing, our living situation, change is difficult. It requires truly like our brains. And I'm not a neuroscience person. I don't know enough about it to speak in depth, but I do know that our brain is required to change in order to adapt. Um, and so, yeah, I think I relate to you, Samana. Of we're forced to adapt to situations, and I think it's, yeah. So a couple things that I've been leaping into as a result of all this change, including uh, stepping away from a job that at one point I really loved, um, and just figuring out what's next. But it's this is the most obvious leap to me, is being on LinkedIn Live. It is definitely not something that I'm um, uh, used to. Um, yeah, and just kind of, I guess, leaning into the discomfort of these changes. That with change, whether it's the market, in business, right? If you're a business owner, and you're doing strategy, or you're an individual in a changing job market and changing world, change always represents opportunity as well.
So I don't know if folks, if you heard what Samantha said, but I think this is a really good moment to just kind of ask. I think we've all been there at some point. I was there 5 years ago. The Great Resignation. I was one of those people that left a job that was not fulfilling my needs and wasn't aligning with my purpose. And I really just wanted to build my skill set in a space that the job was not allowing me to do, and I had just plateaued in a space that felt very restrictive. And there's obviously a hundred other reasons. Now, will I recommend in today's job market for you to do that? I don't think so. It's a very, and Jay mentioned this already, it's a very tough job market out there. And I know things are very different than they were in 2020, 2021, where we saw that peak in resignations, and people were quitting their jobs. Now, for Samantha to have to do that, it's a very cool story. But in having done that and leaping into LinkedIn Live for the first time, which can be a little scary, trust me, I've been there, and I've also messed up on LinkedIn Live a few times. So I'm just really glad this is working, and I rejigged my SOP to make sure that this is absolutely, great and perfect for Samantha. I wanted to make sure this was good. But I also want to maybe just segue into asking Samantha a little bit about after having left your job. We saw something cool on LinkedIn about a week ago. Tell us about what that is, what it means to you, and why you started that.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I just also want to comment on respond to Jay. Leaping can be a challenge because when we are not qualified for the dream job, we have to take that leap and learn new skills, so that we can achieve that dream job. And so, yeah, that's true. And I also want to. So I'm a perfect example of this. That you can also think of leaps in brainstorming for this. This is something that Sumana and I talked about, but there's micro leaps. And so, what might a micro leap look like? Because, and I like to think of things with different analogies and different frameworks. And one of them is finance or saving money or investing. And micro leaps can compound, right? So you can make bolder, smaller moves more often, and that can add up a lot. And so, um, what Sumana was asking about was a decision I made, which is about well, I started this company called Zenrally, and it's a lock in for me. It's I've been locking in um, to what value I have and like really understanding what I do for organizations and where my personal and professional strengths really lie. And so, yeah, I started this company, um, Zenrally. The name is a blend of Zen and the idea is rally. Um, and so it's blending calm clarity with the idea of collective momentum. So how do I um, help organizations operationalize culture, like turning leadership values, performance systems, but helping to translate the culture into daily execution. So it's about yeah, and I guess just to back up for a second, how this came about is in this learning space for me, which is career change isn't necessarily a crisis. Um, it is also part of that data piece. So if you're paying attention to your environment, to your energy, to your body, and for me, um, I knew I was out of alignment because one, getting feedback from my partner coming home every day saying, I don't you used to love your work, you used to absolutely be energized and excited to do it every day. And it's what's changed. Um, and it was a realization that I haven't changed, my environment changed. And I was no longer growing, having my voice heard, maybe in the right rooms. And so, something that I'd like to leave everyone with and get Sumana, get your thoughts on are um, when we find ourselves in a room. Let's say we're in a room, whether that's in the workplace, a conference, a relationship, a friendship, whatever that is. And we're constantly either getting, um, I don't know if it's feedback that we don't belong, um, we're not at peace, there's no growth. It's the recognition, there's the opportunity to either dispel that discomfort into the external environment with blame or internalize it. Um, and instead of doing that, instead of blaming myself, I'm not good enough, there's all sorts of stories we can tell. Instead, it's a mindset shift. It's what is this trying to tell me? And so I think my 2025 has just been trying to tell me that, um, yeah, if you don't fit into a box, maybe create your own box. And so that's kind of the idea of where Zen really came from.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful, and thank you for sharing your story. And folks, if you're listening, this is we're all going through different things in our lives, and we're all trying to master some skills and find a place that. And I'm a huge fan of a workplace culture that promotes quality of life, that is not burning people out, that has leaders that we can trust, all of these elements that we talk about in the workplace wellness space, very similar to, and harder, I would say, to change in the bigger organizational components. But for you, what I really love, Samantha, is like I love those micro leaps. You don't necessarily have to quit your job and do something big and dramatic, or get a divorce or break up, or
Mhm.
start a PhD, which I've been thinking about, but I'm not going to do that. But you don't need that. Sometimes you just need to take that one small micro leap, and LinkedIn Live, putting up your company page on LinkedIn, trademarking it, getting in front of these uncomfortable spaces. That's about enough. And I'm a huge fan of data collection, but also a huge fan of checking off if I'm my KPIs, my self-made KPIs are not just agreeable to me, but am I fulfilling those? If I make these big, large goals that are not attainable within the next 30, 90 days, I'm going to be hard on myself. I'll tell you that. I'm going to blame myself. I'm going to think I'm not good enough. I'm going to think, what did I do? I'm going to start spiraling. You start going into a loss spiral. Your resources are completely depleted, and you start to feel like nothing's working. But if the goal is so small that it's impossible for us not to achieve that, that makes you feel really good. So I do agree that micro leaps are really good, and as long as you're going in that direction, and getting that feedback, if you start focusing on just all the things that are not working versus focusing on the things that are working, that might give you some feedback as to where should I be, what should be my. It's almost like a game of chess in many ways. You have to be strategic, and I know this is hard in the space where we're in right now, where so many people are in the job market looking for jobs, opening up businesses, closing businesses. I myself have met so many people, like Samantha and others that I met on Clubhouse, that opened these great, amazing businesses, especially in the United States, where now DEI isn't really something that is as vocal, but also not as promising of a business as it used to be. Most of those individuals have shut down their businesses and are looking for a job, or looking for ways to find ways to support their themselves and their family. I do want to just maybe comment a little bit about in in my space here. For me, I've also sort of realized that my leap, because I've done, and Samantha, you know this, I've done so many crazy things over the last 5 years. It's actually kind of insane. So my leap, I really had to think about this, because 2025 was so chaotic, so confusing, having to adapt so much, having to deal with so much change, that I really didn't think I was like leaping into anything. So then I thought about, like, well, what did I do in my business space? So the only big leap that we've made, I would say a micro leap, maybe a little more than a micro leap, would be that we've kind of moved into, are venturing into the space of student well-being, and starting to create courses and workshops through our Jetty Wellness Ambassador program, and having one of our ambassadors who did his internship with me for his graduate school, and we kind of leverage that to start to think about what can we offer to students and start to support well-being more downstream, which I have never done for the last 4 years. My focus has always been employee well-being. People that are working with an employer. I've never really looked at students as being, or young professionals graduating from university, as someone that we can target and start to teach them. So this was a brand new territory for me, and it just kind of felt like it I'll tell you this, Samantha. It was on my vision board for probably about a year, kind of in the tucked in the back. I always thought, like, I really love working with young people. I think I really love wanting to support them and mentor them. And I would love to do something one day to support and mentor young professionals in universities and colleges and high school. This was just on the vision board, but for that to now organically expand into Jetty Wellness, I think that is completely new for me. It's I think when we're talking about leaping into something, I think it's also not just about like thinking about, hey, what risk can I take? This life is too risky as it is. Maybe we also want to think about meaningful ways that we can make an impact. I know I saw someone here. Hold on for just a moment. I'll find the individual that I was thinking about. Oh, Shadera. When I know I met Shadera through the Kanzai Career Summit that I did a few weeks ago in November, and that was something that was very meaningful for me. And I was like, I really want to support a new organization. I want to support their process. I want to support the people that are coming in to learn about their careers, to make their moves. So it all just started to feel very organic. So I guess for me, that was my biggest leap. Um, and I'll stop there. I'll pass the mic back over to you. I'll put some comments up here on the screen for you to maybe chew on, and anything else you want to share, Sam.
No, I love that, Sumana. I love so what comes to mind when you're talking about that is um, in a workplace, in the work that I do, when a company wants to change something, whether it's like, so your decision to get into a completely different space feels overwhelming when you're looking at it as a whole, and like it's like that. I don't know where that comes from, but that saying about how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time, and this kind of idea of micro leaps or micro steps. And I love, so what came to mind was asking ourselves, what is one thing that I can do? What is one step that I can take in order to get me further to my goal? Um, and I guess it brings up a little bit of a framework for me when I think of business. And I was thinking about it this morning, and it kind of personally it relates well to the personal, which is this three part. Um, what does the culture look like? What is the strategy? And how are we managing risk? And from a personal perspective, culture might be your values and beliefs, right? Like it's what it looks like, sounds like, feels like, or maybe even what you want it to be. Um, Strategy is more related to your goals and like the tactical movements of how to get there. And then the risk management part is, um, what am I doing to manage risks that could be, and from a personal perspective, it could be managing your boundaries. It could be, I'm spending too much time on social media. What if I subtract that? What could I subtract or add in a very micro way, that's going to get me further along to to either a goal or how I want to feel, or what my life wants, like what I want my life to look like. So I think what you're saying is really cool and actually really powerful to sit and cement that you have made that achievement, that it was talk at the beginning of the year, and it was an idea, um, and you did take micro leaps and moved it into a reality, and now you have this area of your business that you weren't in before, and I think that's something um, to celebrate.
Yeah, no, I love that. No, thank you so much for sharing that. And I think that we wrote a blog about this. Subtract what's not serving you and add what is. So I love that you share that. A lot of these leaping decisions don't have to be these big, gigantic goals, folks. If you're listening, I'd love to hear what you're leaping into. What's something that's scary? What's something that makes you feel a little bit excited about? Maybe some new opportunities have come your way. Maybe there's an email that's sitting in your inbox right now that is a new opportunity, and you haven't said yes to that because you haven't been able to get past that fear that may be holding you back. Maybe you haven't been able to subtract things on your plate that will allow for new things to come on your plate. And I'll tell you this: having done the practicum with Jason, one of my ambassadors, and having completed the workshop, and having to teach students now, it's so rewarding. But that has now opened up a few different opportunities for me. It's opened up an opportunity to be in a PhD dissertation with a university in Calgary, in Canada. It's opened another opportunity with a master's student who wants to do another project with me. So students start to see this, and this ripple effect that happens. Sometimes it's so small and it was happening in the background and I didn't even see that, in this moment in time, I'm like just so grateful that everything is happening with that impact in mind. So your leaping decision, think about it as something that, of course, it needs to compound over time, but also something that will lead to something meaningful. And Sam, if you don't mind answering Jay's question, then we can maybe move on to the third part of our conversation here.
Sure. Yeah. So Jay asked, in my career experience, have I seen myself or been a leader in the workplace? And if so, did it have a positive or negative impact? And Jay has noticed that leadership can have pros and cons. Yeah, I think one, I would say to preface this is that I think true leadership isn't about management. And so I think that's important for um, anyone at any area in their career, whether you're a CEO or just starting your professional career. Um, Leadership is a way of being, it's a practice, it is a mindset about caring for others. Simon Sinek said, like, the idea of like leaders eat last, and that exhibiting care. So I just want to preface that with, um, yeah. So I'm wondering, and maybe Jay can provide a follow up as well. Are you are you thinking about moving up, like a more senior management position, like managing people? So if you're Jay, if you're around still, just let us know um, what you're wondering about. And then, yeah, for myself, I think I do see myself as a leader in workplaces because I think leaders influence the culture more than anyone else. And I think that is, yeah, like that is what we do. With We bring ideas, positivity, um, energizing an organization to meet, like, to operationalize values. Like, what does that look like? Providing inspiration to coworkers. Yeah. And then my last role, maybe, I don't know if this is answering your question more specifically, but my last role in a corporate space was as director of sustainability. So I was managing HR as well as quality, health, safety, environment. Um, and yeah, to me, it had a really positive impact because energizing people energizes me, if that makes sense. And so that's something that, um, moving into more of a leadership role provided me with energy and inspiration and more motivation because I was interacting with more people.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Jay, for that question, and Samantha for your answer. Folks, if you're listening, we are live talking about learning, leaping, and locking in, how we grow through career change. Over the last sort of 45 minutes here, we've covered learning and leaping. The learning component, we kind of talked about, what are some things we're currently learning, what awareness has emerged for us, what are some skills or insights or lessons in this season of life that you have learned that you either want to carry into 2026 or you want to leave behind in 2025. That's also a key element. We talked about collecting some of those data points to help us to kind of get to that discernment process a little bit more strategically. We spoke about leaping, what are our stretch goals? What are we stepping into? How do we define growth? Are there things that feel scary? Are there things that are feeling unfamiliar? Are there things that are feeling really exciting and you want to do that? What did that look like for you? And what I would love for you to do is, even when you're listening to us, and if this seems like too heavy or you haven't had a chance to answer those questions, please do this for yourself. Answer these questions for yourself at your own time. Write it down. Put it in the comment if you want us to read it and give you some feedback, because this data that we're collecting, a year from now, I'll hopefully still be here on LinkedIn, and you can come back and look at your comments and be like, hey, I remember going to this show and I remember putting my learn and leap comments in there, and we would love to kind of keep ourselves accountable through that process if that makes it easier for you. The last L of our framework that we came up with was locking in. And as some of you who have been to the Workplace Wellness Hour, we did our first season 4 premiere, and that was the Great Lock-in, where hashtag the Great Lock-in was trending at that time, because it typically starts in September 1st, ends on November 30th. So it's the last 90 days of the year before December starts, where we are really just locking into and committing to moving forward, protecting our energy, creating those habits and boundaries and practices to anchor your well-being. That's what locking in. It could also be that you're locking into something big and humongous, or it could be that you're locking into something really, really small as well. So how do we grow through career change? By locking into those practices. That's the third piece. And I would love to get Samantha to talk about what are you locking into in 2025 and moving into 2026?
Yeah, this is a good one. And so I think of locking in as the things that I'm absolutely going to hold myself accountable for and that I'm committed to. And the first one is something that I've realized begrudgingly throughout the MBA program. Every single time we had a class where we had to write a reflective paper or do a reflective exercise, I always, in my head, just the way that my brain works, uh, the analytical side of me took over, and I thought, oh, reflection. Okay, great. I'll just get this over with. And then I did it, and then on the other side of finishing this reflection was aha moments, and it was insight, and it is without fail. So I'm locking in on reflection and making sure that, and maybe this goes back again to learning and leaping, but when we focus on intentional decisions and that are aligned with our goals, and maybe it goes back to, right, like those locking into mini leaps, but those intentional decisions beats fast, inauthentic, um, whether it's easy or not. Um, yeah, and so that's one thing. Another thing is meditation, um, learning to slow down my mind, be more intentional about the messages I'm telling myself, making sure that they're not unhelpful. Um, and then I would say the third thing is micro learning. So I wanted to learn more about GHD calculation. So I'm taking a mini course. Um, there's things like for those, and I'm curious if anyone can put in the chat too. Like, what are ways that you learn? I know there's podcast books. There's also stuff like Coursera, Masterclass, joining local groups or professional groups. I know Sumana and I have talked about joining Calgary-based women's group for leadership. So I'm looking forward to that. And I kind of lump that in with this micro learning. Um, yeah. So that's the three things I'd say is self-reflection, meditation, and then this micro learning moments.
Yeah,
Yeah,
those
Sumana,
are
what about you?
those are great. I think for me, I have really been reflecting a lot on protecting my energy. In the words of the great Taylor Swift, energy is your currency that you need to
Yes,
protect.
so
So,
true.
both in my business space and in my personal well being space, I'm trying everything possible to make sure that my energy is protected. So, there's a couple things I've locked in. So, I think my lock in one word, I think I can describe that I'm getting more laser focused as I get older, as I start to get more strategic about the milestones that I want to complete, and also being very open that guess what, things aren't always going to work out for you. And 2025 was a huge lesson learned for me that you could write 100 different business plans and create all of these strategies, and things could still fail. Your health could fail, you could get into debt, you could lose a job, you could have a personal crisis, anything can happen. So focus is something that I really want to lock in. So I made a very strategic decision, and some of you who know me know that all of this on Jetty Wellness, when I first started Jetty Wellness almost 5 years ago now, it's hard to imagine it's been 5 years, was me making evidence-based content on TikTok. That's where it started. And in 2020, 2021, that platform was extremely valuable for a lot of us micro influencers at the time, who were teaching content on well-being, burnout prevention, and all the other things that kind of fall into that umbrella. But things have changed a lot in that space, and I've learned that I was not getting the ROI from that platform over the last 3 years. And this is intense data collection. It was very hard for me to make this decision that it's not working, and no matter what I did, unless I'm strategically putting a lot of effort and money into this, but the business needs to expand in ways that requires other areas of my brain, writing large proposals, submitting RFPs. This requires a lot more of my intellectual well-being, rather than making 2-minute videos or 1 30-second videos on TikTok that really wasn't getting me the clientele that I was looking for. So over the summer, I made a decision, and it was like, you know what, I was edging closer and closer to the decision, and it was like, you know what, no, that's it, not doing it. I'm not making any more content on TikTok. The account will still exist, but no content is going to be there. And I that was one kind of lock-in move. The other one I also did was, and I talked about this in Workplace Wellness Hour, was really prioritizing how much time I was spending on LinkedIn and Instagram. And I'll tell you this, I think very slowly now Instagram might also be kind of slowing down, and my primary focus is going to be on LinkedIn, because that's where I spend the majority of my time, excluding weekends. I am not ever on LinkedIn from Friday evenings till Monday morning. I had made that decision on September 1st, and I've been following through that practice very well. The second thing is, and Samantha knows this, I'm a huge physical wellness person. So gym has been my anchor. It has been the one thing in my darkest times that has like allowed me like not to get deeper into the space that I was in. So I've always held on to physical wellness and movement as a way to ground me. But what I've locked into this year has also been Pilates. And Samantha did come to Pilates class with me, but every Thursday night I go to Pilates. I've been doing that very consistently. So I'm very happy that I took on that kind of more calmer. Sometimes it's hard practice along with all the hard stuff that I do. And potentially once in a while, I'll try to, and this hasn't happened yet, but try to go to yoga at least once a week. So it gets a bit harder to do yoga and Pilates, but at least I'm doing Pilates once a week. And the last thing for me is just creating some space for gratitude. And I just started this about 4 days ago. Well, December 3rd, there we go, 3 days ago, was writing down, after listening to Mel Robbins' podcast, is writing down 3 things that I'm grateful for before I go to bed. I've just been doing it because there's too much chatter in my brain and I need to turn it off. So I've just been writing, and I don't know if it helps, but it's definitely been something I've been doing. And segueing to that, one other comment would be, what social media am I consuming? Sam and I talked about this one time. I when I went for a walk, I said, you know what? Sometimes I'm so tired of listening to new content all the time, and the social media keeps pushing new content all the time. It's hard on my brain. I can't handle it. So I'm listening to old episodes and relearning some strategies from old episodes that I like, that I bookmarked. Mel Robbins, Amy Poehler, I love her, and The Diary of a CEO. Those are the three podcasts that I'm listening to, and I'm only listening to episodes that I like. And sometimes maybe I'll listen to a new episode, but really just like reducing and protecting my energy, Samantha. Like that's been my thing.
Mhm.
Errol, welcome as well, and thank you so much for popping in. Kenneth, welcome as well. Thank you so much for popping in. Any thoughts, Samantha, about what I shared? And folks, if you want to put in your in the chat, what are you locking in? I would love to read some of those comments as well.
Yeah, I love your what you said about protecting your energy and just really being intentional about what you're doing, whether it's subtracting something. And I want to respond to Meryl's comment because I think it relates. Uh, Promote the cover girls promoted in the music business, and the quote is better late than never. And I think that's such a good point. Just about going back to growth mindset. So I think we all, and I found myself in the spring, developing unhelpful narratives around my career shift. And I think we can unintentionally self sabotage ourselves. Um, and I was thinking about this, and I often think in this in a analytical framework. It's my analytical brain going here, but an antidote, perhaps, if you find yourself saying something unhelpful. So that could be something black and white, um, self-defeating, whatever that is, but is choosing a micro leap, or what can I do? Um, what's one small thing I can do to bring me closer to my goal, or even just to energize me or bring me peace. So I loved, Sumana, just to wrap that back to your, if you recognize that the gym was your safe haven, your foundation for how you regulate. I also want to bring that up. How are we regulating ourselves out of that fight or flight mode? And I think um, this is important for us in workspaces and as leaders, as well as individuals and employees. But how do we, yeah, how do we, not even how, what are we doing um, to bring us peace and energy, to make sure that we're
Mm.
not like burning out, right? Yeah.
Yeah, love those, love that. It's it got me thinking, a lot of our, and thank you folks for who are still listening to us, for pretty much close to the end here, learning, leaping, locking in. What a fantastic conversation this was. The For me, when I think about, and this is something that I would urge our listeners to think about as well, is when you think about locking in and your commitment towards your well-being, you need to be like very, very disciplined in your commitment to protecting your energy or whatever that is you're trying to protect, and your quality of life. What do you want your quality of life to look like when you're 45, 50, 70, 100 years old? Hopefully we can all make it to that age. Is What does that look like for you? Do you still want to be able to do things that you do? Do you like cooking? Do you want to be able to cook? Do you like running? Do you want to be able to run? Do you take the stairs? Do you want to be able to do that? Do you want to be able to type and make content, or read a book and have good eyesight and mobility, and all of those things? Like, what are those things that make you you? And are you willing to commit to protecting that, so that your future self will thank you for the decisions you're making today? I told myself in this decade, um, I will protect and do anything I possibly can to be in the best shape of my life. Number one, of course, I can't control the external elements, but I can get my butt to the gym if I need to go, and I need to go there. But for me, that is my space. I'm not saying that's a space for you. For me, that's always been kind of like my space to either do something high intensity or low intensity. But when I'm there, I know that I'm doing something for me. That may be different for you, and you just have to figure out what that anchor is that will allow you to have your quality of life and live the way that you want to live. And for me, that means I wake up at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm at the gym, but that gets me going to the rest of the day. And on the days I don't go, I honestly feel not great. So I was listening to Mel Robbins' podcast this morning, and I only listened to about 10, 15 minutes of it. But The Power of Habits, I can't remember the author's name, but he was talking about keystone habits. And there's so much research on exercise, daily physical activity. Your keystone habits have a ripple effect. Studies have shown that if you do exercise every day, it's shown that people who go to the gym in the morning will likely have a better lunch break. They'll probably pick a salad over a sandwich. They'll probably not spend as much money. It's all unintentional things. There's no real way to explain why that is. But if you see someone running, you always think that, hey, maybe this person got their life together. But I'll tell you this, I run and I don't have my life together, but I'm doing it to get clarity. So if you ever see me running, it's because I'm trying to get clarity, or I'm really angry, or I'm just not in a good mood. I don't ever run when I'm in a good mood. So just wanted to share that. But I'm in the gym, regardless of how my mood is. Sam, any thoughts on that before we wrap this up here?
Yeah, I a couple thoughts, and we'll have to have a part 2 for sure. One that we've talked about this, but the running part, or the um if it's part of identity, whether it's professional, like Jay asking about leadership earlier, or um, the idea of micro learning or micro choices. So, like your decision to run, your decision to go into the gym every day, like you build habit through taking the first step. And I think it's the same in organizations, right? So, um, yeah, what's one little thing that you can do? I'm kind of losing my train of thought there, but yeah, it's um, it's designing habits that foster what you're looking for. So whether that's um, Chidera, you mentioned gratitude challenge. Sumana, you mentioned earlier journaling, reflection. Um, I've been talking about meditation, and again, meditation can be going for a hike. It can be getting perspective by connecting to someone, like it's or just this. And I think these pieces connect us to like a bigger picture of our goals. So it's locking in on what those items are. Yeah.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Samantha. Meryl wants to connect with you. Anybody else who wants to connect with Samantha, please do. She's on LinkedIn. Zenrally, the company page is also on LinkedIn. You can follow that. It's new, it's fresh, it's going to be exciting. It's going to be, we're not sure how things are going to evolve in both our spaces, I know, but whatever that is, in whatever we are sharing on social media, I don't share a lot. It's usually just about a few things. There's a lot that, I had, who said that? Protecting my sanity. I think Kenneth, you said I'm committed to protecting my sanity. Sometimes I love, I think that's great. We definitely need to do that. And what we feel comfortable sharing on social media, it's a personal decision. And please follow Samantha, follow her company page. If you want us to do a part 2 of learning, leaping, locking in, because I think there's so much more to this. This particular conversation was more about how do we grow through career change, but we can definitely continue this conversation and have more of this podcast style. Yeah, just a very casual. I mean, we did bring our notes and we did come with content for you to share, but we would love to have some. More ideas if you have for us to do this maybe once a month or something like that. But I do love this framework, and I would love for you to try this. Learning, what are you learning? What are you leaping? What are you locking in? What are you committed to, protecting, moving forward? I think that's any last takeaways, Sam, before I let you go. I know you have a busy morning.
No, I think Meryl just took the words right out of my mouth. I atomic habits, right? It's this idea of micro leaps. So let's think about, be intentional about what we all want to do going into 2026. The power of atomic habits, and I definitely recommend that book as well. I would love to read The Power of Habit. That I will take your recommendation and connect with you as well. And yeah, like I think it's uh, just being intentional, protecting our peace and energy, and connecting with like-minded people. I think that's the other takeaway, that this is kind of comes full circle here. But yeah, when you find yourself in community with the right people, you're getting authentic and helpful feedback along your goals, and ideas to help you grow, then I think that's the sweet spot as well for career growth.
Love that. Thank you, Samantha. And thank you, everyone who joined us live. I appreciate you taking the time to, in your very busy morning to or evening or wherever you're joining us from, all over the United States, Canada, Nigeria. Thank you so much. This has been so great. I've really enjoyed this conversation. And I love collaborating with, people like Samantha. And I'm just really glad that she trusted me to bring her live on LinkedIn for the very first time. I took this as a sign of trust, but also I took that as a sign that I need to make sure that she is safe and that she has a good time, and that we are as a community can help. I know there was almost 90 something people registered for this event. So if you're watching this after we've stopped recording, please let us know. The comments are always great to engage. I'll try to go back and pull some micro clips over the next little bit here and share that with you as well. I personally have learned so much from you, Samantha, and all the folks who've joined us, for all your commentary, the book recommendation. Meryl, that's the one I was thinking about. Yeah, we will consider a part two. And I think this conversation was meant to give you a little bit of a taste of where we've been over the last like year. The ups and downs of it. We don't really talk about it that much. I mean, I know I don't. Workplace Wellness Hour is a different show. We're very strategic in our 1 hour there. So this is more of a vulnerable space, and a space where we want to be able to share things that will help you, that are helping us, and you get to choose, right? There's so much content out there, there's so many amazing people out there, so I'm just honored that you chose to sit here and listen to me and listen to Samantha. It really brings a smile to my face, and I'm just so grateful for the support, and hopefully we can come back again in the new year. But otherwise, wishing all of you a happy Christmas and happy New Year. And I'll be back on Monday for Workplace Wellness Hour with Felipe Cofinio and Ashley Llewellyn. And Samantha, any parting words before we say bye bye?
Thank you for holding space for me, Sumana, for this my first LinkedIn Live. And thank you
Woo!
so much for everyone for joining. It means a lot, and we appreciate your support, and thank you.
Awesome. And congratulations on your MBA. I know officially you'll be able to put that on your LinkedIn very soon. Keep up the great work. And would love to have you back again. And we'll do this again. Bye, everybody. Take care. And we will see you soon. You'll see me on Monday night. And that's our last show for Workplace Wellness Hour. But otherwise, we will see you again, definitely on LinkedIn. Keep up with the posts and hope to see more comments in the chat as well. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.